a former director of operations for good hunting in America, seems that Snowden just still begs for attention, doesn't he?
Well, he seems to reappear with regularity, but I think Stone's recent movie has drawn some additional publicity. I noticed in the New York Times today there's a full-page ad saying, "Bring back this hero," And I think the Republican committee last week, Intelligence Committee, said the president should not grant him amnesty.
Well, everybody seems to be so divided about his case. Even the Washington Post published something yesterday, I believe, about, he should get the pardon. The newsroom published the story. However, their editorial team published on Sunday that, he should not, in fact, get the pardon. So do you think there is a case here for pardoning Snowden after he leaked more than 1 million classified files?
I'm on what I would call
Could you repeat that?
Of this issue. I don't. I think it's not just a question of amnesty and awarding him. I really believe he's a felon, committed a crime, and has done great damage to our national security and to our country. So I find it abhorrent that abhorrent on one hand, and the second hand, that such a large segment of our population, including those who follow this issue at a fairly high level in the media and elsewhere, do not see the absurdity in granting granting Snowden any consideration or any attention. I can give you my reasons for it, and so, when you join the federal government, when you join any of the intelligence agencies or work in the security field, you sign a document saying that you will respect the Constitution, but you will not release any classified information. You can see that even our presidential candidate is having a terrible time with the FBI over classification. In the case of Snowden, you're talking about, I believe, over 1 million documents that he basically downloaded. In fact, I'm sure he didn't even know what was in all of them. Who could read the documents? He just unloaded them all. And I would make a few observations. When you leave and you take classified information with you, and you decide you're going to live in Russia. And years ago, this was a capital crime, treason. And if anybody thinks he's sitting in Russia as a guest and isn't had to share with them everything he has, I think they misunderstand Russian history and intelligence history.
Well, the funny part
is he has following, because I think we live in a new age of Internet of all things, communications, transparency, and I think particularly with younger generations, there's almost a knee-jerk reaction to any type of limitation on information and information flow. And why I intellectually can understand that, you cannot run a government without having secrets. I mean, even if you take the Federal Reserve, Federal Reserve has to protect what it's doing in terms of its analysis, or people will use that information to manipulate the markets. I mean, how can you have an army and Navy force and be developing weapon systems and developing strategic plans and not be sure that that information is being protected? I spent my whole career trying to find out what the Russians and the Chinese and the Cubans and other governments that were hostile in those days to us. I mean, because it's so valuable. So, coming back to my point, there's terribly devastating information. Now, if he were a real hero, in other words, he sat down one day and felt that the government was abusing the system, which he has failed to demonstrate, I would point out. But if he felt that, then there's a recourse inside of at the time he was downloading was NSA. There's a recourse, and I may be off on the numbers a bit, but as I recall, he only made one inquiry to the Inspector General about whether the law outranked the national security, and either General Counsel or Inspector General came back to him saying the law does so. So the one foray where he even raised the issue, he was given what would have been surely an acceptable answer by anyone's standards. He never took it to Congress or made his case public. You should resign your job or start inside and raise the issue. And then there's whistleblower laws here that there are places where you can bring this information. He skipped first, second, and third base and just took the information and ran with it. Went to China first and then Russia. I mean, it certainly should make us.
It's interesting that his plea for pardon coincides with Oliver Stone's movie, that celebrates his actions. And there is one scene that I found particularly cheesy and simplistic about how Snowden supposedly copied all the classified files in just a simple move, and he just left the NSA base and walked into the light with a smile on his face. In the reports that you already mentioned from the House committee, they claim that in fact it took him several weeks to copy the files. So this fact begs the question, why wasn't he more selective of the files he decided to reveal to the public? If he's been, storing those files for quite some time, why did he have to reveal not only the fact that Verizon and other internet providers were providing data to the government, but also revealed, other secret files? Hello? I think we lost track for a moment. This must be Russians, the Russian hackers. Let's reconnect here. I'm very sorry for this loss.